thank you for that introduction. Rebel, I feel like they've done you pretty hard there. That was completely not required.
If anything, it was actually a compliment. It boosts my ego higher than it is right now, so I'll take what I can get.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Well, yeah, we're here at the second series of the day. SBCC, when I look at this composition, it feels very competitive League of Legends. You've got a lot of zone controls, you've got your hyper carry ADC, you got your split pusher, you've got a whole bunch of nice stuff. Cerberus, a load of short-range champs that just want to punch you in the face with Artemis trying to do as much damage as he can on the Jinx on the other side.
Yeah, I feel as though they've drafted pretty heavily into the Vigar, although the Sylas has a ridiculous number of ultimates that are super valuable in a game like this. So we'll see what Yato has up his sleeve. I want to talk mostly about the substitutions that have come in today, because obviously we have quite a few differences. Yato coming back in. I think this was interesting. I know I was also salty that I thought that Yato wasn't really a problem in their first series, even though they were playing against the best team in the league. So to substitute him for Jane, I was like, I don't know about that one. So I'm happy they're giving him a second shot. The DNK substitution was also interesting to me. And DNK has had moments where he's looked like the best jungler inside of the VCS. And so it's always, to me, taking away somebody with that kind of a ceiling to their gameplay is sometimes detrimental. And so SBTC, to change things up and to go away from Spot, who is having good performances, potentially over DNK, maybe it's a meta shift thing. Maybe it's DNK actually stepping back in, being confident in play, maybe being able to communicate. We've had instances of DNK going on full tilt mode previously. So there's a number of things that actually change things up for both teams.
I'm always of the opinion that when a team subs out or subs in a player, whatever way they're doing it, that there's always going to be some sort of justification for it. And maybe it's a justification that you can disagree with in the long run, but there's always a reason. You don't just do that sort of thing for Zero. As whilst we were talking about that, both supports have traded Ignite, so a little bit less kill pressure on the bot lane as Artemis and Rono P. They'll take a bit of a cheeky recall here, get some extra power on this Jinx.
They will. They've got good pushing power, obviously, against the Aphelios with the Jinx to work with Rockets. And I think this is going to be a big boon to the team, as it means Artemis technically could play on his own in the bottom side, which I think is necessary because you had alluded to it previously. The low-range composition, even though there is a Graves, obviously, it's a low-range composition that could struggle into the combination of the Vigar ultimate as well as like the Aphelios. You've got Gravnum with the Moonlight Vigil, which is an absurd ability to be able to find engagements with. And you throw a Hecarim into all of this as well, where the fear can just completely, take away all of the power of an engage from melee champions. And all of a sudden, you've got this like ridiculous reign of possibility to deny all this low range any access to what is celebrity or even 2T in the majority of the set. So I'm hoping that they accelerate this early and mid game to be a lot more interactive for themselves, so that they have better ability to control pacing in the later stage of the game. Because without it, they could run into problems, especially if Yato isn't doing particularly well.
But I think that a lot of that engage and sort of getting on top of SBTC is going to come from Rono P on this Leona.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I want it. If I had to pick a player that's sort of like coming in as someone who's not too familiar with the VCS, Rono P is a name that I've heard a few times, and he's making plays already. Palette now being focused down. The flash away. First blood for Fook, and now Celebrity is going to be the target. Forced to flash himself. That is a very high value gank in the bot lane, but SBTC do get something for themselves on the top half of the map.
Yeah, fantastic strike back on the other side from DNK, able to find something in response to what just happened. Fook 1 was able to pull the kill, which I think is good for the Viego to be able to fight with. And like you said, a good amount of this has to do with Rono P and the ability to get on top of another champion. That was a great example of it. And it's further punishing what is the side of SBTC, trying to get their Jinx ahead to be this big damage dealer for when the scraps actually start to come out. You can see this was a good engagement. I love that you talk about Rono P too, because inside of the league, like B gets quite a bit of credit, but Rono P I think is consistently considered our best support in the entire league. Poor Pass just getting run down, unfortunately. It's the Hecarim kind of pushing him back into the rest of that play. But yeah, the true play I think coming into bottom side being the important one to watch.
And we have seen that phage completed by Poss, so that would hint that it is going to be a Hullbreaker first Graves. Did see a Graves in the previous series, but
my goodness,
went for a bit more of a lifesteal build. That is a fair bit of damage from Yadao already.
Yeah, Yato showing off a little bit on this Silas pick to be able to actually get into the face of 2T. And then actually, I think the bigger flex was dodging around in the cage, making sure to take only one ability and give one stack of the AP. You obviously don't want that, but as a melee champion, it's not always the simplest thing to do. You did give up a little bit of wave pressure here. You can see that Yato's struggling. Oh, he's got the ultimate. Uh-oh.
He's just going to go for this. The flash away from 2T,
Oh, no.
but over the cage. Yato goes, out goes the Primordial Burst. Solo kill in the mid lane.
Yeah, I seem to remember there was a time and a place where 2T was actually on GAM, which has been the rival team of Cerberus for the last couple of splits now when they've been competing for a #1 spot. And so perhaps Yato wanting to flex on some of the new mid laners, wanting to flex on an old rival of his on that GAM esports squad, just doing it to him on Silas as much as possible, taking his preferred matchup here against this Vigar with a melee champion is kind of a bold statement for his first game back.
And the early kill onto Fuquan and the early kill onto Yao means that these melee carries that we were kind of worried about for Cerberus being able to have that access will have more raw power in the fights. Yeah, that doesn't actually help you get on to Celebrity, it doesn't help you get on to 2T, but it means that you can survive a little bit longer, and when you do get that engage off, more damage means you're more likely to find these kills, to find these resets, to play out these fights advantageously. Again, bit of a calmer early game than our introduction to the day, but I feel like it benefits both teams in this regard.
Keep your eye on top side here because there's a lot of action going on. 2T knows where Vukuan is. DNK also knows. They're just trying to steal away the Krugs. You got to get the little ones, though. Those are the ones that matter. Okay, yeah, you're able to steal away a couple of those on the side of DNK. Gets him level 6 if they want to try to dive for boss, because I don't think Vukuan can actually supply all that much addition to what a dive would look like against this Graves, or against the counter dive of the Graves pick. But they decided to just pull away. They're not going to do anything else. It's just a little bit of counter invading to come out, pull a couple of resources, and now DNK gets to clear to bottom side where a dragon could be up on the table. So I want to watch and see 2T what he does with his wave, and then of course bottom side what they're doing with their wave. I feel like Celebrity and Palette need to be a little bit careful. It looks like they're pushing too hard, because if they're not careful, they're going to push it, it's going to bounce, and then all of a sudden if Artemis and Ron OP decide to have control of the lane off the back of anything they decide to do here, there could be problems. But they're just getting a back timer. They're going to be able to redeploy about the time DNK gets to the bottom half of the map.
I think it's a decision that they've made where they've acknowledged that, okay, maybe the timing isn't completely right to be there, but if we're coming back into lane with extra power, that pickaxe picked up for Celebrity can mean a whole hell of a lot. But instead, potentially opting in for a little bit of a trade here. DNK starting up this Rift Herald, and if Cerberus can spot this out, they'll be able to take away the dragon, but they don't appear to be starting it up. Once this goes down, there will be that global alert, and maybe they will opt towards that objective there. But as it stands, SBTC kind of getting something for nothing here.
I'm curious what kind of gold shift. This is a point where, like, I wish I could do this calculation in my head, but I know I can't. They're stealing camps away. They're going to try to get the red buff. They get a couple of tower plays. They actually get 2 onto Artemis solo, which is a huge amount of gold into the pockets of the #1 carry, as well as one of the better champions in this game for being able to put out damage from a range. It's pretty much the only thing they've got in a team fight that's going to be able to do things safely. And then you compound that with the dragon, and all of a sudden, I'm actually a little curious what the idea is for your first SBTC, because it feels like they are the ones on the back foot of this play, since the Rift Herald is going to be able to net you 2 plates guaranteed. If you get a second charge, that's phenomenal. But ultimately, so far, Cerberus are actually the ones that come dramatically out ahead.
Early resistances get that stacking up. DNK might look for a top dive here. There is a ward that's going to spot him out, but the pony is a little bit too quick, and with the Hextech ultimatum thrown down as well, Poss has no hope of getting out of this one. Ult onto the tower just for the style points, and it's the first kill of the game for DNK.
Yeah, the wave did, however, crash on the other side, so they're not going to be able to step underneath the tower and get it quite yet, which I think would have been the intention most of the time here. So I don't mind that Poss was able to kind of close the space, and the wave being pushed on his part actually ended up with this play not yielding nearly as much as they probably could have gotten. Like, the fruits of the labors there definitely could have been spread a bit better for the side of SBTC. But they are finding strikes, and they're playing towards the Camille. We've actually seen Enper kind of go crazy on this champion before. We've seen Camille's just completely win out games here in the VCS, and so it's not shocking to see that DNK is finding a way to strike on the opposite side of the map. CERBERUS, they're playing to Artemis. They build a team around him for specifically that reason, and so it's unsurprising that they're playing towards him now, so DNK just finding what he can on the other side.
But then we talk about Artemis has opted towards this there's 2T potentially getting jumped onto in the mid lane. The model's just a little bit too small, and yes, that is a short joke. But Artemis does kind of need to be the big carry here. But I feel like SBTC have got enough tools to actually get on top of him, and taking the heal as opposed to the cleanse means that once DNK fears you up, it's very difficult to actually get out of that scenario. You're down going forward. Stolen away that primordial burst. The chain lash used, and it's another solo kill for the Cerberus mid lane.
Rookie schmooky right now. We're talking about mid laners inside of the mid lane taking over the spots of some of our old guard, and Yato is having absolutely none of that discussion. He's flexing against TT right now with this Sylas pick into the Vigar, finding fantastic chains, not allowing for this box to keep him away from the Vigar, to be able to zone him away from what he is doing at any given point. It's providing, 2T is not able to kind of stack the way he wants. He's not able to trade the way he wants, and Yato just crowding his space, currently commands a 20 CS lead and 2 solo kills against this champion. It's kind of insane what he's been able to operate on. I don't know what they did to him, unfortunately. He has to be angry about potentially losing the job, and he's taking it all out on 2T today.
It just feels like he knows the damage numbers of this 1v1. Like, it's clean as you like, and I'm scared. I'm scared about what this sort of like mid-game transitions looks like for Cerberus, because they've clearly got a mid laner who is not messing around.
Yeah, and you throw in, again, you have some amazing ultimates. The Hecarim ultimate you throw in, you think about the Vigar ultimate against just the Vigar, but against anybody, it's going to be a pretty mean tool. And even like the Nautilus ultimate's a pretty valuable tool, not even just for the damage, but just for team fighting in general. You compound all 3 of those together, and it means there's never really going to be a skirmish or a fight for the most part that Sylas isn't going to be having a massively impactful ultimate. So Yato getting this far ahead, kind of really detracting from what SBTC are going to be able to do. If they can find some kind of a dive into Artemis or anybody else, Yato could make a very riveting case into the opposing backline. And I'm curious who actually feels a little bit more uncomfortable, whether it is DNK and potentially Emperor putting enough pressure into Artemis, or whether it is Celebrity who's calling for a little bit of mercy for Yato.
Well, SBTC are going to pump even more resources into Emperor's Camille with the Rift Herald summoned up in the top side. I don't think this tower is going to be threatened, at least for a little while. Will just be those initial 2 plates taken away. Fuquan has made himself known in the top side of the map, but with SBTC not going for anything too over-aggressive, will they need this Viega just yet?
And the conclusion of the Rift Herald saga, to bring it all into one finally kind of wrapped up bow, eventually they get 2 plates and nothing else, and the exchange was for 2 plates into Artemis and also the bottom side camps, and so it ends up being the advantage, or the advantage as well as the dragon for Cerberus. So checkmate, all things said and done for the side of Cerberus here. The Rift Herald trade, at least they're not flipping, which I can appreciate.
Yes,
Cerberus strikes on the other side, and SBTC, they got what they needed, right? They didn't use it poorly, they didn't lose it, they got the gold, they matched what Artemis was able to get. And normally we're seeing teams flip for like Rift Heralds. I know we haven't seen one in this series, but it happened all the time in winter, so I'm really happy we're getting cross-map macro instead.
Oh, Pallet, you want to ward that Tribe Rush, don't you? You really want to ward that Tribe Rush, don't you, Pallet?
He knows there's someone in there, too. Oh, he can't even see, but he knows they're in there.
That's big brain. I love just throwing up the emote as well. It's like, I know. With that, though, Cerberus will actually transfer further aggression, stealing away this red buff, and DNK isn't really around to pick this one up, so kind of a free steal for Fuquan. RunOP might be paying for it with his life, though. The Chompers are going to be thrown down, but there's so much damage already on Fiona, and now Artemis follows him over. The Zap gets a little bit of damage down, but it's a double kill for the pony. Yadao goes over the wall, but Pallet is going to follow him as well, as here comes... But if he gets jumped onto, it's flipped back around by Cerberus, and the resets have started to come through. 2T's going to be the next target. It's double kill secure for Yadao. Make that 3 as one gets another. That was beautiful from the mid-jungle duo of Cerberus.
The attempted strike against the bottom side, and it's a blind hook that starts things off for Palette, because he's like, okay, they've got so much vision control. They're stealing away the red buff this whole time, and they've got the support of DNK, so they're like, we can make this play happen. They find a great dive into Artemis. You talked about how easy it is for this backline to get engaged upon by DNK, by Emperor when the time comes, and right there was a great example, but the reinforcements come from the people with gold, the Viego and the Sylas, show up at the right time once all the resources are burnt, and yes, Artemis Artemis probably feels a little bit salty about how that situation turned out, but I can assure you that Yato and Fook1 do not feel salty in the slightest. They are fantastic in a position to be able to punish that. And I know Poss also teleported in for a play. He's happy because he got to pull the entire bottom tower. All those plates, all that gold into the pocket of the Graves. He's feeling much better in the side lane now.
Artemis might be bait once again. Ron P shielding him, but Pallet is here as well. Here comes Fook1 though. It's another bait, and it's a kill for Artemis time around. Hextech ultimate take him down in the end. But this is another fight that Cerberus taking. Emperor, the next target, single-digit HP almost on that Camille. Heals up a little bit with the Divine Sunderer proc, because he's actually somehow still alive. Artemis thought they would have got more off that play and is not happy about dying for a time.
Nah, just the 1-for-1. You do force back Emperor once again, and the side laning is just not there on the opposite side of the map. They decide to leave the mid lane completely open. Celebrity was trying to make a rotation potentially, so he's going to miss a little bit of that. But the biggest thing for Cerberus is, again, this opens up this Rift Herald play. You can see this is the engagement on bottom side, actually, which, again, props to the side of SBTC. They don't realize, I guess, that Fook1 is coming from behind, because, again, vision control is not exactly their strong suit on here. But the reinforcements from the two Fed members, my favorite part about this is that, like, Yato's like, I'm gonna go get DNK, and he's like, wait a minute, nobody's there on Celebrity. Everybody left the poor ADC on his lonesome, and Celebrity's like, guys, where'd you go? And it just loses the fight for them, because now they don't have that much damage. Again, a lot of the cooldowns that were burnt from DNK were necessary to kill Artemis, but would have been necessary to win that fight outright.
Oh, speaking about killing Artemis,
wow.
Locked onto the tower, taken out by Celebrity. It's been a rough game for the Jinx, but his team's doing fairly well, although well, we'll get the stun down onto Pallet and trade it over. Leona actually alive for ages. SBTC kind of mucked up that dive at the end, but they still pick up 3 kills for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, they're able to kind of put all their pieces together in the mid lane and all at once just continue striking. And in the meantime, Emperor's actually getting quite a bit of work done on the bottom side, so that's going to be a tower in response as well. Poss thankfully able to kind of, deny any mid-tower push. Fook1 had the Rift Herald. I'm surprised he didn't drop it. I'm guessing he thought... Yeah, I'm thinking he thought there maybe were more members that were coming towards his way than, like, actually were, as a little bit of the footsteps syndrome that came in from that right there. But yeah, it's good stuff from SBTC, able to actually make a pretty significantly impactful play. I want to make one comment about the Cerberus God, which is that Artemis has been taking the brunt of most of the aggression over the course of this game, putting him in a little bit of a hole. It's not often times that we see this from the side of Cerberus, but this is a game where I'm thankful that they're at. He's going to take even more.
Yeah, you're dead there, Artemis.
Oh.
Kicked in the face. That's rough. Oh, the thumbs up at the end. Come on, Emperor. Really?
Painful. This is a game where I'm actually really thankful that they pulled in Yato rather than Jane. I feel like it would be so hard for Jane as a rookie to step into this position, even into the same position where you're up 4 kills against your opposition in a lane like this, up against 2T, who's also playing the Vigar, who's able to deny you a bunch, and be able to put the team on your back and carry. Yato's been able to do it before. Yato's been able to do this, right? The experience is a position where it's like, if you give this experience to Jane, maybe Jane can do it, maybe they can't, but we know that Yato is capable of being up to the task. And it seems like right now he and Fook1 are going to have to do the heavy lifting for the most of this early game because of just how far back Artemis has been placed in this one.
He's not completely out of it. I would just like to say
not
that
at all.
Still relevant on itemization, has that Gale Force and is actually keeping up with Celebrity in a lot of regards. So even with all this pressure thrown down onto with these death after death after death, I don't think that Jinx has really been taken to a place where she's going to be irrelevant. Now, Emperor forced a hook shot, wall dive away as Yadao was in the area. 2 items complete on this Silas, that Everfrost and the Zhonya's to buy even more time in these fights. He's going to be so difficult to kill, especially around this dragon fight in 30 seconds.
Absolutely. Oh, look at this. This is amazing line of control words that they've got in the jungle on the side of Cerberus. I can give them a ton of appreciation for that. Somebody is teaching them to buy the control words and throw them down in the jungle, and that's very appreciated. They're actually going to pull a full tower with the Rift Herald, might even get a charge of the inner tower as well.
And I think that's why Fook1 saved it in that top side. It means that you can generate this free mid priority, throw Shirley against this inner tower. Yeah, she's not going to take it down, but it means you've got the inside track for this Drake. And like you already talked about, you got a lot of vision there as well.
Yeah, the trade-off being, of course, that the inner tower on the top side would be worth a lot of gold for Fook1, but again, it's much more impactful to be able to snag up this dragon, be able to kind of, make this mid-push happen and take away this dragon, setting yourself up for the soul point. It's a win condition for Cerberus that they're able to try to operate on here, which I think is pretty big for them, given the fact that, again, their composition is a little bit harder to play in the later stage if you're considering their lack of range that they've got up against their opposition.
And Rebel, I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, on paper, SBTC, they look like they're in a pretty decent spot. You got 2 items on Emperor, including that Death's Dance, which means it's so difficult to this Camille. And they didn't really contest against Cerberus on that Drake. Do you think that was just a case of they couldn't walk into the vision, or a little bit of a misplay, playing overly passive, perhaps?
It's a good question. I think the biggest part of that is the lack of vision, right? You didn't have mid push. You lost a very significant portion of your jungle to enemy vision to the side of Cerberus, because they were entrenched there long before the mid push had actually come through. The Rift Herald drove you back, so I don't think they ever had a real opportunity. If you overextend into this team, oh wow. Okay.
That'd have been very nice onto pallet there.
Would have been amazing.
Sort of playing around the vision in the enemy jungle, not interrupting DNK's back, using it more as a bait rather than anything. And after securing that Drake, putting themselves on the soul point, Cerberus have sort of flipped their attention a little bit more to the mid and the top side of the map with that Baron available. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, making sure to cover the bases of the possibility of SBTC being able to force them into a bad situation, which is controlling your space inside of fights. If Artemis continues to get dove on, obviously the impact isn't had. I know in terms of gold, he's not down in this game, but I mean, literally DNK has not stopped diving him, and I'm sure Emperor is going to double down on that when the time comes. And so when it comes to that fact from SBTC, they can't be burning a bunch of their mobility resources getting into a position to start fighting. They have to be ready to start fighting in the first place. Otherwise, Artemis can still take over a fight with this Jinx build, with like the rapid fire cannon and the ability to really just kind of use the range advantage that they have. So that's, I think, the reason why the bottom side went poorly, and the reason why now they're indexing more into the top side, because it's like, okay, if Baron is the only objective on the field, we need to be capable of stepping into the river to fight it if that possibility comes through. And also, you look at Cerberus, they have literally 3 ADCs effectively.
Yeah.
Like, Diego isn't necessarily one, but he's got the damage of one. So like, it's a terrifyingly fast Baron that could come out from Cerberus, so they need to be ready.
I was not concerned is the right word, but when Yadal sort of like put down that ward, I was ready for Cerberus members to sort of like just jump into the pit and start it up themselves, because like you were already talking about, there is a scary amount of damage on this roster already, even at the sort of 23-minute mark. I think going and starting up that Baron is quite risky against a lot of the AoE that SBTC does have. Veigar Cage, we're talking Moonlight Vigil, we're talking Hecarim Ultimate as well. If Cerberus aren't getting picks before that Baron, I think starting it up is very, very risky. And now they're trying to do that, but they might be getting picked themselves. Fook 1 goes into the cage, but it's actually going to be the Veigar jumped on T, running himself away with those predators now just to secure the advantage. Once again, SBTC, they're split pushing fine on the side lane, but they are corralled out of the objective.
They are. Made sure. Look at that vision line that they've actually got around this. These control wards are just menacing from the side of Cerberus. They're going to force out a TP from Emperor if he's got it available. Yato's here with the Hecarim ultimate as well, so you have to be careful with this engage.
One OP being caught out there. Teleport is being channeled, and they're just disengaging. This is so smart. They're taking away one of those tools that SBTC need to get the split push going, and they're just, backing away from the Baron. We got what we wanted. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Once the cage had gone down just seconds ago from 2T, when he was playing up against Fook 1, and they burnt the flash and a bunch of the tools, they wanted an engagement, teleported, or a pulse ended up in the right situation to be able to try to take the fight, and they burned the TP from Temper. It's costing them mid-priority because they didn't have it when they were working their way into the jungle. Now Yato and Pulse are going to push it back out. But you look at the possibilities of what you've got. I say that as both a legitimate word, but also as a meme, because Pulse has TP. Actually, Rano P's getting engaged against everybody else is around.
Flashes back towards his own team, towards Yado, towards Pass, somehow still alive on the Leona. That Moonlight Vigil one will secure Celebrity the first kill of the fight, but that's a big investment onto only one target, and that means that Cerberus can start to turn it around. Fuquan going forward, gets the reset as well as Yadao is just diving into the backline. Doesn't give a damn about 2T's damage on this Veigar. Will chain forward, will dash forward, will take him out. Cerberus secure priority position around Baron, and now they're going to start it up.
And only losing Rano P during the course of that fight, Fook1 was able to get out the back, and I thought, like, okay, if they lost Fook1, that is a disastrous situation for them. Or not disastrous, but at least it means that they can't go for Baron, and they're going to have to reset, and it's going to be a full potential fight for SBTC, who died earlier in the fight, so their reset probably means they get river control on bottom side for the next dragon. But now with the Baron, they can set themselves up with faster back timers, they can set up their mid wave and their bottom wave. All they have to do is make sure that SBTC doesn't just run in a line directly at the dragon and take it immediately. You can see Artemis is already preemptively being here. Rano P's already showed up, and the TP from Pulse is going to put multiple members here. That means that the SBTC, they have to respect what is happening from Cerberus. They've got the Baron buff. They just have to slow play it, make sure the mid and bottom wave are going to get pushed out, and they're going to snag themselves the soul point as well.
And this is because of those sort of desync banks that we saw after that ban. We just saw Artemis go back, but the 4-person core of Cerberus is more than strong enough to stand up against SBTC, to buy enough time to allow that AD carry to get into the picture. And yeah, we're looking at a Cloud Soul. That's pretty good on someone like, I don't know, a Viego. Resetting and running at 1,000,000 miles an hour sounds amazing. And now Cerberus needs to translate these objective advantages, these busts that they've got, into towers, into structures in SBTC's base.
Yeah, we love movement speed into a lot of champions, but as low range champions into a Vigar feels pretty nice when you're able to outrun the cage every once in a while. Like it makes the difference between you being on the inside edge and getting stunned by it, and being on the outside edge and being able to step out of it and not getting caught by it. That's going to be a pretty impactful. Nice ultimate stack from Yato. He's able to grab up the Hecarim ultimate once again. They're just sieging, and I think that's all they really need to do. I'd like to see one person. They actually send 2 fully to the mid lane to be able to capitalize on the Baron push there as well. They haven't synced mid and bot wave, which is one problem. They kind of need to do that here soon enough. I think somebody should probably... it's tough to try to get that set up from this far out right now. So instead, they're just going to take the health chipping as it comes between the bottom and the mid towers.
It's a bit of a slower push. They do have a minute and a half on this Baron, so they can afford to do it. But with that wave pushing also in SBTC's favor in the top side of the map, then they really are forced to play on 2 lanes. Pos being engaged onto now, forcing that TP away from Yadao, who's going to go forward there with the stolen unstoppable onslaught. Finds a load of picks as the Hecarim goes into the backline on the side. Ib is going to... But it's already 2 kills for Cerberus, and they are just cleaning up. It was a good start from SBTC. They stood up well. They never really fell too far behind in this game, but when it came to the fight, Cerberus was just that little bit cleaner. Artemis stays alive, deals out the damage, and game 1 of this series goes to the dogs. It goes to Cerberus.
It felt